Hi, Coach Alexandra here with decades of experience of helping people get into great schools, top MBAs, great executive global programs, finance programs, PhDs, masters in politics, even LLMs. So the question is about TOEFL. Almost every graduate school, at least in the United States, in the UK, or in really any country where the main language is English, they require you to take a TOEFL or some equivalent. Now, the equivalent could be IELTS, or however you want to pronounce it, and you're fine to take that. What we have found is it's easier to match TOEFL with GMAT and GRE because they have a more similar mentality, and there are a lot of things that you could learn that you can apply to TOEFL. So let's talk about some strategies. Let's talk about some of the mistakes and some of the complaints that people have about TOEFL. So, what's the real idea here? How do we time the TOEFL for GMAT and GRE takers, and how do we address their most common questions, complaints, and mistakes? And keep in mind, if for some reason all of the schools require you as an international student to take the exam, they have a reason for it. Now, the TOEFL is for the whole population. It's for, it's for people going usually to graduate school, but it's for all graduate schools across the world. So, since you have so many more people taking it, in some ways, really it's easier. And if you speak English with a little bit of study, you can do very well. But the most common question is, why do I need to take the TOEFL if I scored well on GMAT or GRE verbal section? In other words, I got a great score on the verbal section. I'm in the 80 percentile, 90 percentile, whatever it is. Why do you want me to take TOEFL? And by the way, TOEFL, there are some exceptions. For example, if you, as an international non-native English speaker, if you finished the university that was mainly taught in English, if you got a degree, you can have some waivers. There's some other cases. But for the most part, for over 95, 98+% of people, you have to take it, and some schools say, we're sorry, we give you no waiver, you just have to do it. So let's not complain about it. Let's figure out the answers to why they would need it. Again, remember, business schools, they don't want to waste your time. The application process itself is part of the preparation. One of the things that makes business schools successful and makes you successful after you graduate, and again, master's programs, not just business programs, is the fact that on the front end, these schools did a diligent job in choosing the best people. And of course, it makes everything much easier on the back end because the schools do take the time to weed people out and to find the best class that they believe they could get. But there's more answers to it than this. The TOEFL is a slightly simpler test because it's not as complex, but there are some things on the TOEFL that you do not have on the GMAT or the GRE, specifically the speaking section and the listening and being able to respond section. Now, why is this important? Well, that's because in a good program, exchange with other students, your ability to communicate with them, and it's in English, and your ability to contribute depends in large part on your ability to verbalize. So what very often happens, or used to happen, or what was some bad surprises for some schools, is that you can have people who get a high score on the verbal section, but when they come to start the program, or when they come to campus, their speaking and listening skills aren't as developed as they need to be. Okay? Because you can do very well on the GMAT or the GRE, but still not be able to talk very well. Now, of course, they find that out during the interview, but they don't want to waste a whole bunch of resources to get you to the interview just to find out that your English level is not as good as it should be. Okay? The interview is for something else. So that's why they make you do it ahead. So don't panic about it, but it gives them additional information. And the trick is to understand how you want to plan your timing. And if you're doing the 2 exams, these are the ones, the GMAT and the GRE, are the ones that are going to take most of your resources in terms of concentration, time, effort, preparation, things like this. Which brings us to the next question. Should I do the TOEFL first because it's easier? And yeah, of course it's easier. You know? But the answer is no, you should absolutely not do the TOEFL first. Because a lot of people are under the mentality, okay, I need to do all these things, let's check them off real fast so that I've accomplished everything I needed to do. Well, no, every piece that you have, including the TOEFL, is part of your file, is part of what gives your file strength. It's what makes you stand out and what gives you the level. Now, again, you're all smart people. We work with people who know how to do their research. If you were a dumb sheep, you would be listening to anybody about anything, and you don't want to do that. So get smart about how you think about it. Why? Because the information is available. So don't turn off your critical reasoning brain and completely put your trust into somebody else without thinking about the logic and the strategy that naturally comes out if you think about what your objective is. So here's what the answer is. The answer to this is no. Why? Because when you do a good job, spend a few months studying for the GMAT and GRE, you are naturally going to increase your verbal abilities in English. You're going to be able to understand things better if you do it with a good coach, if you do it with a good program, if you study well in the way that we talk to you. You will understand sentence structures. You will understand logical structures, how they're put together. You will become more comfortable with reading the English language in general. And both the GMAT and the GRE have a written section, which is not difficult if you prepare for it, but by preparing for it, it also teaches you how to put together an argument, a comprehensive, short, but well-stated argument. And again, you don't have to use big vocabulary words, although the more vocabulary you know, the better for you. But the idea is, don't do the TOEFL first. Work your ass off on these exams and get the best score possible. And some people want to do everything together because they're in a hurry. Well, look, you got to friggin' plan better, okay? You can't give yourself a month and say, I got to pass the GMAT, I got to pass the GRE, I got to do all of this stuff. So plan. On average for GMAT or GRE, you want to give yourself a couple of months. It's okay if it stretches out to more months, because that's part of your preparation. And by doing that, well, you're improving your ability to think in English, to read English, to be able to play with multiple choices, to understand strategies of elimination, etc. And once you do that, you are in so much better shape for the TOEFL exam. Your life is going to be easier. After that, you can make a decision. Go with a good coach or a good program in order to do the TOEFL. Or if you're going to do it on your own, you still want to study it in order to understand the different sections. Okay, and in order to benefit from all of the things that you learned, whether you know it consciously or not, if you did well on the verbal section in another test, even if you didn't do well, but you studied, all of that information and all of that knowledge is inside you, and it's coalescing and it's building together, and it will make your work easier. Why? Because the good schools, they say, you know, on the TOEFL, we want a particular score, and that information is available. You don't need us to give it to you. Okay? So you can tell what their cutoff is, and some say very specifically, we recommend that unless you're at least at this level, you would reconsider your application. That's what we need, okay? So you also want to score in the top percentile. This is much easier to do. It will take, for somebody who did well on this, it will take a couple of weeks, I don't want even to say few, but of really good preparation and getting to know the test. We'll talk more about that in another video. So that brings us to another point. How do I prepare? Well, we just talked about that, so it naturally flows into this question. The way that you prepare is first by doing this, and then by really understanding the mechanics of the TOEFL in a different section, because it breaks things down into different sections. And specifically practicing, and in the next video we're going to show you, give you some ideas, the speaking and the listening section and the writing sections. Because, you know, if you already did well on other parts, reading comprehension is not going to be that difficult. Some other things are not going to be nearly as difficult as on the GMAT or the GRE, because it's a general, you know, because this is a general, more of a general English test. But the good thing is you could still use strategy for it. So in one of our other videos, we will get into more detail about how you should prepare for the TOEFL. But I think this answers very clearly for championship mindsets. Invest in the hard stuff first, and that gives you the skills, boom, which you can apply to the TOEFL, and then you can blow that out of the water in a few weeks after you finish your GMAT. Look for more information on our websites and contact us to help you with your plans.